welcome to Juicy Scoop. I've got such a juicy interview with returning guest Kimberly Archie, and she is answering some questions about new developments in the Tom Girardi case with Erika Jayne, things about the lottery, things that we don't understand, and then some extra juicy personal stuff of when she worked there. So it's really good. But first, let's get into some hot topics. Well, in the Kravis world, that's Kourtney Kardashian and Travis Barker. They are in Italy. They are all over each other, making out. The Dolce Gabbana with their mother and with J-Lo, and everyone's loving their love, except apparently for Scott Disick, because Yosef, he was the hot guy that Kourtney dated a couple years ago, shared a DM that Scott Disick sent to him, that said, and then Yosef put it on his stories. He screen grabbed the DM from Scott. Scott wrote to him, "Yo, this chick okay? Bro," with a bunch of O's. Like, what is this in the middle of the day, Italy? And it's her straddling Travis on a boat. And then Yosef writes back to Scott Disick, "Doesn't matter to me as long as she's happy. P.S. I ain't your bro." Ouch. Like, don't get me involved. We're not friends. I'm not here to bag on Kourtney. So he posts that on his stories along with, "Couldn't miss this one. He's been playing around for too long. Tried to stay quiet and be the nice guy. Back to work now." Bravo and Cocktail's a great Instagram account. They're the ones who I spotted on first. They found it because they follow him. They reposted it, and I'm sharing it with you guys. Since then, everyone's talking about it. Then Amelia Gray posts, she is Lisa Rinna's daughter who's dating Scott Disick, a sign of someone holding up a sign saying, "Let's be nicer to each other. We're all just trying our best." Well, it doesn't sound this. I mean, obviously this was a reference to don't be mean to my 38-year-old father of three boyfriend who wanted to bag on his baby mother to her former boyfriend. Be nice, okay? Can you just be nice? Well, then tell your boyfriend not to start shit and talk behind the mother of his kids back. Meanwhile, Kourtney's probably just like, la, 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 loving every second. And she's probably just does that weird. She's just like laughing about it. And I think Kris Jenner's enjoying the publicity. But, it's a little embarrassing. Real Housewives of New York. You guys, the worst season is over with. It was a lot. It was political. It was religious. Literally, they went to a religious dinner. It was called Black Shabbat, but the girls thought it was Black Sabbath, which was a rock band in the 70s. It was all a lot for us to take, but it is now over. They concluded the season with some desperate measures to keep their job. None of the girls have a significant other. Nobody has a boyfriend or someone they live with or someone that they're coming close to. None of them. And the new girl, Brashawn, the Ebony's a new girl, but then Brashawn's a new girl. And Brashawn really did, I think, she was a nice girl. She didn't bother me, but she didn't fit in. It really didn't fit in. I felt Ebony did fit in. I don't think Brashawn did. So I really doubt Brashawn's going to come back. We don't know anything about this girl. Ramona claims to have hit it off with her. Yeah, right. And we don't know like who she was married to, where she lived before. We do know that she's a cancer survivor, which is important, but I don't know anything else. I don't know if she's dating anybody else. I don't even know if she has children. I have no clue. So anyway, before she gets to the Hamptons house, Brashawn, the girls are hanging at Ramona's and they're having fun and they're getting drunk. And because they have no guys, just like a slumber party where you don't have a guy there, it's their Valentine's Day party. Luann throws up a poster of Harry Dubin. Harry Dubin was once the husband of the other housewife that was only on one season. Oh my God, I forgot her name. I thought it started with an A, but she was the one who had the prosthetic leg that then had the famous scene where she said, "The only thing that's fake about me is this leg." And then Luann's like, "Oh my God, oh my God. Oh my God." So Luann has since dated her ex-husband, Harry Dubin, and slept with him. So did Sonia. And Sonia really has a chip on her shoulder about it because she feels like everyone's taken her old boyfriends. Luann married one of them. Then now Ramona is dating Harry Dubin, and Rachel, you could tell who was on my show, also dated him and confirmed that like she saw Ramona with him. So she holds up a big poster of his face. And meanwhile, I think Ramona took a photo of it and texted it to Harry. So then Harry called her back and he's like, what's going on, ladies? And they're all on speaker and they're squealing and laughing. And then Sonia's like, you know what, Harry? I don't love you anymore. Why'd you have to screw all my friends? And then Ramona's like, I only kiss Harry. We're actually not having sex, though. I like to have sex. I can have a lot of sex. They have a discussion about penis size. And Ramona reveals that after she cheated on her first boyfriend with a guy in college who had a very small penis. Can you take a big dick? Can you take a small dick? Let's just talk about dick size more. Can we talk about the circumference of your vagina? Can we have a bunch of guys talk about that? Is that classy, ladies? No, they got to keep this job. So Ramona goes, I also have these little crystals we can put on our nips. So let's, we're all girls here, along with the cameraman and the audio guy and the producers and the chefs. So let's take off our tops and run around with just sparkles on our nips. And I have to say, their bodies all looked really good. They all have nice boobs. Leah just got a new boob job. And I think most of them have boob jobs. And their boobs all look great. Their stomachs look good. But, I mean, it's kind of crazy when you think where this show has gone. But hey, you're 63, you got a good body, go for it, Ramona. Who cares? I didn't really find it was funny. I didn't really think it was that interesting. Oh, and even at one point, she licked Sonia's nip, Ramona did, to get the sticker on. So, I mean, these two. Then they go and they do this identity thing where they all pretend to be each other, which was kind of clever. But at the same time, it made me go, okay, are my Housewives impressions also coming to the end when they're just doing each other? Is this like a hacky joke now? I feel like it's a little bit hacky pretending to be a housewife. I know you guys like it, but I kind of feel like maybe the ship has sailed altogether. Thank God I can always come up with something 3 times a week, including Patreon, and still be funny without it. But it was kind of cute. It was kind of fun. Whatever. Then they end the season with the chyrons of what everybody's doing. And Luann's going to go back to Cabaret. And then I noticed that Sonia is also, they said, is continuing with the creation of her own comedy cab-burlesque debut in New York City this fall. This is the first time hearing about it. We are in fall. It's September 1st. Are there any dates planned? Did this happen, or is this another toaster oven? I like Sonia on the show. I hung out with her at Josh Flagg's house. She knows I'm a stand-up comedian. Never once did she mention, can I talk to you? I'm doing this. I'm going to be in New York. Anything. Never heard about it. And I asked her many times, what are you up to? And it was just, I'm going to another spa. I'm going to a spa. You know what? Everybody steals my guys. I knew all the Doug Ellen people. And now, Ramona's acting like she says it because she's a realtor. You know what? So there you go. If there's a fact to show and someone in New York is going to go, please go and report on it. Meanwhile, I'll be in New York with yours truly, Chris Frangiola. We will be there. There's several shows. I think there's 3. So get the tickets because it's probably going to sell out. And it's November 5th and 6th at City Winery. And maybe Sonia would like to make an appearance. I don't know. Real Housewives of Potomac is one that people are enjoying. I just thought this was funny because one of the storylines is the candlestick wars, okay? And that is the one woman who talked about her great education, which was Wendy. She has like 4 degrees and a professor and is a commentator on a lot of news shows. She became a housewife and was like, screw this. Got tits and ass, some lipo, body is banging. And now she's like, why do I want to be a professor when I could sell candles? And the husband's like, do you know anything about candles? She's like, no, but I like to smell. So she's starting a candle line. She shared it with Karen Huger, who, has an international lifestyle brand with her perfume and knows so much about business, though she was never in business up until the years that she got on The Housewives. And she goes, why do you want to get into candles? She's like, well, I see myself being the Black Martha Stewart. And Karen's like, well, that's great. Then Karen springs it on her as she's getting the key to her city, which 3 people are at, that she too is expanding the Karen Huger line where you don't only have to smell the perfume, you can smell it in a candle. And she said, the producer goes, is there a competition or, is that a conflict of interest? Is that a cheater brand? No, there's enough candles for everyone in the world. And Wendy, I believe, is a 1-wick candle and I'm a 3-wick candle. And that's going to smell up the room smelling more like me in a quicker fashion. Crazy. Princess Diana, okay, I hate it when there's these sources, and there's always like 3 stories a year about Princess Diana, and I'm like, really? So this close confidant to Princess Diana is now just deciding now, 20 years later, to spring this on us, and the Daily Mail is reporting it, saying that apparently when she was dating Dodi Fayed, who unfortunately died with her in the car crash together, they were a hot couple, they were seen on yachts, much like Kravis, and she was planning on moving to Malibu with her sons and pursue Hollywood, acting, producing, all of that. So this guy just now has decided to share. Why wouldn't you have shared that earlier? That's pretty interesting. Well, it doesn't matter if you shared it 10 years ago, 15 years ago, or today. But it's weird. I'm always like, is someone just sitting around and going, oh, I'm just going to create a story? Like, I literally could just go, I knew someone who worked with Diana, and right before, because I remember where I was when she unfortunately died, I knew that she actually was going to come out with a line of dog food. She was super into pets, and she was going to come out with a line of dog food, and that dream will never be found now. But no, she was like testing different things. She knew that it was important to give dogs really organic food. And I've just been holding on to this the whole time because I just didn't think it was my business to share. Like, shut up. Ooh, this is good. The Daybell. Let's get to the Daybell. Chad Daybell. He is the boyfriend to worst mother on earth, Lori Vallow, who is facing the death penalty for killing her 2 daughters. Her son and her daughter. Chad Daybell was the 5th husband of hers, in which they found the 2 deceased children buried on his property. You know the story. If not, look it up. It's so many layers. There's a 48-hour mystery in which his 5 children are saying he is innocent. And there's CBS News shared a little article kind of teasing that episode. And they believe that their mother, because his wife died kind of mysteriously, just went in her bedroom one day and she wasn't responsive. And so they buried her without an autopsy because the kids are saying, yeah, we knew she wasn't in good health. So we're like, no, we don't need an autopsy, Dad. We totally agreed with him. And they're like, well, what about the 2 kids that were found on his property? And they say, well, we believe that Lori Vallow, the mother, and her deceased brother, Alex, framed him. They killed the children and framed him by putting the kids on the property. I understand wanting to believe your dad, but come on. Not happening. Okay, you guys, I'm so excited. As I said, I am coming to Seattle with Justin Martindale. This is it, you guys. It is here, Triple Door, September 10th, 1 show, 2 shows on September the 11th. The second show, there are still some really great seats left. Let's get this sold out. Let's have a blast. I hope you can come. They have a lot of COVID measures to keep you safe, and I can't wait to be there. So I will see you in Seattle. Everything is at heathermcdonald.net. And if you like this episode and you like this show, please subscribe. Tell a friend. People need laughter more than ever, and that's all you have to do. Share it on your personal social media, subscribe, tell a friend, and change your life. Hello and welcome to Juicy Scoop. We're going to get all of our questions answered because I have Kimberly Archie here to discuss, did Erika Jayne really win the lottery? What is this $25 million new lawsuit about? What does it mean? Welcome to the coat rack. Kimberly, welcome. How do you like my coat rack?
I should have brought a coat to hang on there. That would have been cool.
Do you recall it from when you worked for people that don't know, Kimberly did work for Tom Girardi for many years. Do you remember this infamous coat rack? A lot of people think it's very ugly. It
is ugly. It kind of looks like little hot dogs or other things. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not a looker. Yeah.
I don't remember. I think I was always so distracted by the 8,000 awards all over the office. I was always so entranced by those. I missed the coat rack.
Well, when we walked into the office, Peter and I, on Friday to get our stuff, we obviously wanted to film. The woman said, with big trustee on her shirt, can you not film? Can you not film? And I'm like, why can't we film? We've seen this lobby before on Housewives. And so the woman was barking at me, but I did see all the photos of him with Hillary Clinton, him with Joe Biden, Erika's old face. You know, I looked, I waited. And then they gave me a gift with purchase. They gave me a illustrator's book that does like court drawings. The guy just goes, here, we were giving these out. So I figured there must have been like 100 of those that they found when they were cleaning it out. And they're like, should we just give this gift with purchase? It was very weird, but I have it here.
So I saw some people that went, to pick stuff up. And I noticed that they
here it is. Justice Illustrated, courtroom sketches of historic cases.
Yeah, no, this is the whole. Okay,
Do you know what this book is about?
Well, yeah. So Tom used to love to buy art of court cases, and he donated an entire collection worth a ton of money to the Library of Congress.
Oh.
And he was on the board of the Library of Congress. And they did like a tour of, like a national tour of this artwork. And it has like OJ trial and
OJ's
other
on the
like
cover.
big whoop-de-doos. And so, yeah, in federal court, you can't have cameras. So you have to have a courtroom artist. So you have lots of drawings from all these high-profile federal cases. And Tom was like obsessed with courtroom art.
Well, now I'm kind of excited that I have this book.
That's really cool. That me and Kathy meant to bid on crap, and then every day is some new bullshit. So we got caught up. And the next thing I see on Instagram, like, oh, I got this, and it's like, oh man.
And explain just to people who might be new who Kathy is to you.
So Kathy Gomez is my childhood best friend, and she's also part of the family that sued Tom in 2019 that set off the chain of events that tumbled Tom into the problems he's in today.
And her son was the one that was burned 90% of his body and is waiting on his $11 million from Tom.
Right. So Joe Gomez is Kathy's son, who was in Housewife and The Hustler. And yes, he's still missing $11+ million for his medical fund.
Yeah. So explain this lottery thing, because I'm seeing all these posts of people that are following this case going, who knew Erika Jayne won the lottery? So explain this, because you explained it to me the other day, and I was like, just come on the show, because this is very juicy and a little bit complicated.
Yeah. So what happened is there was a man who won the lottery. So it was kind of like a scratch-off tickets type of thing. And then, so this was more than 10 years ago. So it was the type of ticket where you could like trade that in and go on some lottery show and possibly win more rather than keeping some little amount he got or whatever. Well, his daughter was an actress. And so he's like, hey, you should go on the show instead of me because you'll fare better than me and we'll just split whatever we get. I mean, they're thinking we're going to turn 1,000 into 10,000 and split it or whatever.
Okay.
Well, they won $5 million. But then the daughter decided, oh, screw it. I'm going to keep it all because I did the deal. And so who cares if I made a verbal
So she's going to
agreement?
screw over her parents.
Right. So she's going to keep the money. So that's how David Lyric gets involved, who's Tom Girardi's son-in-law.
Okay.
So he represents the mom and
Who's
dad.
an attorney.
Who's an attorney, right, and worked at Girardi Keese and was one of the partners and one of the signers on the trust accounts. Mm-hmm. So David represents the family and he wins. They go to verdict, they win, they get punitive damages. And so obviously lottery money comes from the state of California. So, and it comes in annuity payments. So the lawyer fees came out of the annuity payments. So rather than them getting their bulk attorney fees, they were going to get payments over X number of years. Where what goes awry is Tom and David assigned their attorney fees to non-attorneys, their wives. Then,
So the wife is Erika Jayne.
right,
And also Tom's daughter-in-law.
Tom's daughter.
Tom's daughter.
Right.
Okay.
David's wife is Tom's daughter,
Got
Jacqueline.
it. Okay.
So they're both getting money each year and have been getting money for some amount of time and have payments going forward. So we heard that they stopped Erika's payments that came to the trustee, but then they didn't stop Jacqueline's payments, or we don't have proof of that. So recently, Law 360 did an article about it, and pretty much everyone didn't have any comment about what happened to Girardi's daughter's money. So the lottery thing's just kind of interesting and just sort of shows that, well, for one, it just seems kind of like, so they stopped Erika's money because that would produce headlines or something. Like, why didn't they stop both of their payments? We're still trying to get the answer to that. Seems really, kind of weird, kind of creepy. And then, obviously just the story in itself, like, I think the daughter even played like Snow White or something. So there's like old headlines like Snow White wins the lottery and all this really weird stuff.
So did the parents ever get what was due to them, or was this just their commission that was getting paid through the wives?
They did get some money. They did not get all of the money that was taken from them. And they did protest the non-attorney assignment.
Situation.
Yeah. So I have seen letters from their attorneys to Girardi Keese saying that they never agreed to give any money to non-attorneys. And the answer was like, well, we're doing estate planning. Okay, well, it would be okay if an attorney passed away and left that money to their spouse. That would be estate planning. Giving it to them while you're alive, like, I'm confused. Like, how the hell is that estate planning?
Now
it's just doing whatever you want, really.
So now that can't be good for Erika.
No, and you also have to realize too, like, the lottery is the state of California. So they take out federal tax when they distribute it. But because California owns it, you're not paying California tax. So because they didn't take that in as income as attorneys and then pay the additional state tax, whatever it was
tax-free.
Yeah, exactly. This money all just sort of like came. The federal tax was already taken out. No state taxes. It's going to the spouse. It just kind of is a funky.
Which is why it appeared Erika won the lottery versus this was my commission, just like a realtor or anybody else. I made $100,000. I have to pay my income tax on this. So that's exactly why he did it that way.
So one of the comments in the Law 360 article was that it was a bonus to David Lira, and that's why he was giving it to his wife, that it wasn't lawyer fees. But when the journalist went back and added up the numbers, the exact amount given to Jacqueline and Erika were 40% the lawyer fees. So that doesn't really add up.
So it was the 40% of the $5 million?
Of the amount that they got back, right?
That's a lot. Right. Yeah. And so she was getting that every year for 10 years or so.
Right.
Okay, and now what is the other thing that's confusing is the new. So we know that Erika, 20 million plus, went to Erika's LCC. We now know some of the recipients of that money and what she spent it on. What is this new $25 million lawsuit about?
Well, first of all, there's the bankruptcy, and this is a filing within the bankruptcy. It doesn't really make a lot of sense to those of us who've been, working on this for years. I don't really get it because we all knew that she racked up money on the American Express. And you saw that it's Tom's American Express, not Girardi Keese's American Express. So here's a wife spending money on her husband's Amex bill. Like, that doesn't happen every day in LA. But the claim is that these were ill-gotten gains and they need to be paid back. Okay, maybe. I'm just not sure how that's going to play out. For one, how do you get blood out of a turnip? Mm-hmm. First of all, does Erika have any money to pay this money back? And the only thing I really felt like it created evidence for was that perhaps they were claiming, loans that weren't loans on their taxes. So it just sort of, to me, gives a red flag to IRS. Now the IRS is going to come in, and the IRS is before victims and anybody else. So really, to me, we're just adding another
person to wait in line.
Yeah, another bill that's going to come before the victims. And then this is the other thing about the $25 million new filing in the bankruptcy. Let's just play devil's advocate that Ronald Richards and Alyssa Miller can go out and get $25 million out of Erika. Let's just play along with that.
Everybody knows about Ronald Richards. He's been on my show. He's all over the internet. To explain who Alyssa is, for those that don't know.
So Alyssa Miller is the bankruptcy trustee that was appointed by the courts in the federal bankruptcy to handle the things related to Girardi Keese, the law firm.
Okay.
Although it's a sole proprietorship and it's just Tom, for some reason they picked two bankruptcy trustees. So there's a trustee for Tom's personal estate, and his name is Mr. Rund. And there is special counsel for that, and that's Axe Law Firm, the firm that represents the Gomez's. So they're also special counsel for this as well. And then you have Alyssa Miller, and then Ronald Richards was hired by Alyssa as special counsel. So
who was the mean lady when I picked up my coat rack that had trustee on her shirt that said we couldn't film?
that would probably be Alyssa Miller. Yeah. Yes, the main the main lady
Do you
in
really
charge
think it was
of
her or just someone she hired?
I mean, who else would have trustee on? I just don't see how they would
remember
have
that they had stickers of trustee on. Yeah, interesting. Okay.
So let's play, fun devil's advocate that they collect $25 million from Erika, I guess, from some place in the Cayman Islands that she stashed money because she's really good at money. But let's pretend. And so then they collect it because that's the part I don't see happening. But let's say they do. Okay, well, 40 to 45% of that, depending on when they collect it, goes to Ronald Richards. 5% plus her hourly fees go to Alyssa Miller. Then the IRS, and then the legal lenders have $28 million in loans. How will that help the victims? I mean, I guess someone could say, well, it'll take away at maybe $10 million off the $28 million. But to be on the internet saying I speak for victims and I'm going after this to get money for the victims. No, because half of it's going to go to lawyers. And then the other half's going to go to lawyers of Tom. Friends of Tom that own legal lending companies.
Right.
What people don't realize is that these legal lending companies loaned Tom millions of dollars when it no longer made any sense to loan somebody money. I mean, we wouldn't have been able to borrow $20 from a family member at this point, and they're still loaning him millions. But they are sophisticated because they're filing what's called a UCC filing with the state of California saying hey, he said that if he doesn't pay, we get his house, we get this, we get that. But he had promised the same things for all these different loans. The same assets were promised over and over again. Now, let's say you come to me and you want to borrow $1 million. Why wouldn't I look at the other UCC filings from when you borrowed and go, oh, look, they've already said that this company all already used his house and his office building and whatever other asset to secure the last $5 or $10 million loan. And now you're doing it again. So these companies seem kind of unscrupulous. You couldn't get a payday loan like that. You couldn't use your pink slip to your car for 3 different payday loans.
Right.
It's kind of nuts.
Yeah.
So I just think the headlines are really disingenuous to some degree. And it does sort of feel crappy for the victims. Some of us have been talking amongst each other and it's to see $25 million, we'll get it from Erika. It's yeah, but how does that play out in real life? And then, in a typical bankruptcy, the system is meant to rehab the person filing bankruptcy to give them another chance. But Tom committed fraud, so we shouldn't be setting it up to give him another chance. So it should be just protecting the creditors, not protecting the actual debtor. So one of the things I think is interesting is that we're suing Erika, claiming we're going to go get all this money, but has the trustee filed a claim for each one of the people who are owed a debt to ask the courts not to charge it off because of fraud? Because if we don't do that, then in most bankruptcies, at some point, the debt's just charged off and Tom or Erika won't have to pay it. So shouldn't they be doing that right now?
Yeah.
Instead? I mean, I'm just asking.
Also, do you think that all the tweets that Ronald puts out and even being on my show, do you think that is part of his hourly wage, or he doesn't get an hourly wage? He's only going to get the percentage of what he collects. I'm just curious.
I haven't seen where he's going to be able to charge for hourly. It's my understanding that Alyssa Miller is charged for hourly plus her 5%. And Ronald Richards is on contingency.
Got it.
Basis. So I don't think that he's able to charge for like tweeting per se. But I mean, the thing that makes the tweeting just obnoxious is that, it's gotten to the point where we used to be sitting around going, Erika's such a jerk. She doesn't care about anybody who got screwed over. We're just all blown away at her behavior, whether she knew now or knew then or whenever she knew. Her behavior about what's going on has just always been kind of atrocious. And now we're not really sure who's more annoying, Erika or Ronald Richards. It's just kind of a toss-up. Sorry.
Well,
I mean,
Yeah. What do you think, though? I do find this interesting. What do you think about, is he at this assisted living or not?
Okay. So the assisted living thing, I mean, for me, I heard through the grapevine from people on the inside that he was going to be put into assisted living about a week and a half ago. Mm-hmm. So it was a couple days before we saw this come out in the press.
In those in those enormous pants,
right? In the giant pants and the tan pants with the black shoes and the little sweater, or whatever, the little Bill Cosby sweater, which is kind of weird. But yeah, so we see that. But the way I took it is that they were going to look at it and for him to like pick a room or something. I didn't take it that he was checking in.
Oh,
and
okay.
then so I'm not sure that
he's
moved in.
If that's what you heard.
So this is what I'm hearing, right? That it's a room's being selected, the arrangements are being made. Yeah. I haven't heard he's literally moved in and isn't coming back out.
Yeah.
And also
because we don't know if he's actually left the premises of the Pasadena mansion.
Right.
Yeah.
And I heard somebody question and say, well, like. They're not accepting packages or whatever. Do they really think they're going to have normal protocol for Tom Girardi at the old folks' home with all this attention? You just send him a package with a bomb in it, and they're just going to go like, well, of course he's here. I mean, we have to play by the rules and admit he's here. Yeah. No, they don't. They don't have to accept packages for him. It doesn't even make sense to act like that's evidence of whatever. And nobody said that he was there. Like paparazzi assumed. That's what happens when you assume.
The other thing that, has come out in the last couple of weeks is, her story on the Housewives about the car accident.
Yes.
And, people were like, well, turns out there was no record. LA Times reporters found that there was no record of this car accident.
Big deal.
But I was like, well, if I was buzzed and if I had a reputation and I was aging and
my stepson was a cop and he's at home, why would I call the cops if my stepson cop can just wander over and be like, hey.
It involves no other car.
Right.
It's so close to my house. It's literally practically on the property itself. Why would you ever call the police? And you're an attorney. Why would you ever call the police?
So one of the bloggers on Instagram, Talk of Shame, she did like a video.
Right.
They went by Tom's house. And so they drove around the back and showed like, oh, look, it looks like that's exactly the story I was told. That he went around, missed the turn for the house and went around and went down the hill behind the house. Mm-hmm. It's exactly what we were told. And here's one of the things that made me believe that this car wreck ever occurred is because Tom missed a big event in Vegas that year because he had bruises on his face and couldn't go. Mm-hmm. He would never miss that gig in Vegas in a million years if he could have went.
It was a yearly thing?
Yeah. Yeah. It was one of the big annual kind of lawyer things or whatever, and he didn't go that year.
Is that where Jay Leno performed?
Yeah.
He had a photo of Jay Leno framed, too.
Oh, yeah.
Next to Joe Biden.
Yeah. Yeah, he was a buddy of his. I mean, some of his, my favorite was always Burt Bacharach. I don't know, because I just thought that was so, like, cheesy, funny, weird.
Now, it's just also, there was, I don't know if it was on Reddit or what, that someone said that they worked that event at whatever hotel it was, for this big convention that he would put on, and that oftentimes he'd be standing there with his wife and the mistress. And the mistress, we've heard, is someone who also worked for him, and that's the same woman that we saw whose face was blacked out when the person got the photo of them eating at the local Pasadena joint.
And also at the Beverly Hills Hotel a couple years ago. Remember there was that one story of him having dinner with the blonde at the Beverly Hills Hotel and also blacked out the photo, but it was like in the Sun or whatever, one of those type of outlets. It's the same person. And Erika, and everyone knew. And that person. Everyone knew. Come on.
And that woman worked with him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she
it was not a secret. So her little thing in the show, like, oh, my friend, her experience with her husband cheating made me go, oh my God, I think I'll look too. Kind of like buying, non-waterproof mascara. Let me check out my phone, my man's phone now and dig through it. That makes zero sense. Like she knew, everyone knew. I don't know. Like it was just one of those things that like you're not going to ask. Like it's not like I'm going to go, hey, you guys got an arrangement? Like tell me about it, Tom.
Right.
I mean, I'm not trying to get myself injected into any kind of weird stuff. So you're not going to ask, but it's just one of those things that, everyone knew. And you also heard stories. But that woman
was different than the photographed evidence that she shared from the phone. That's a different woman. So there are multiple women.
Sure.
There's the
you got to think about it like this. Guys with that kind of money and power is, every woman's type, even if they're not that great to look at. So they get to do stuff other people don't do. I mean, it's creepy.
Yeah.
Admittedly, but that's how it rolls.
Right.
It's Hollywood.
Okay. Okay, so how long do you think he's with the main mistress, in your opinion, being that you worked there?
I mean...
And so then the main mistress was being cheated on with the judge.
Well, is it cheating when you're all like going along with it and it's cool? And I mean, she had a dude too, so it's just sort of all... like a weird arrangement. I mean, Erika would come around to certain things before Housewives.
Right.
Afterwards, I mean, I wasn't at everything, so I'm not trying to say I was, but like Christmas parties, Thanksgiving was a big, deal. There were other stuff where they'd have stuff at the office. I just didn't see Erika around anymore. So it kind of became less.
So after Housewives, she stopped coming to all the stuff.
Yeah. And, she was mostly staying at the little apartment pad thing there for the last few years too. So, it's also just kind of funny.
The one that we saw where she would have all her clothes.
Right. She chilled there a lot. So, I mean, to act like she was always posted up at the Pasadena creepy mansion.
Yeah.
That just dropped another mill.
Oh, now how much is it?
Like 8.9. I mean, I don't know. Like, who wants that? I mean, they probably think it's got like bad mojo there. Like 40 years of bad vibes. How do you get that out? Do you do an exorcism? Like,
I will agree with Ronald Richards, and as just a realtor, it would be better if Tom was gone. It would be better to have someone come in, change the walls from that 2005 creepy yellow to a white, and like clean it up, put some more modern furniture in, and just like give it a fresh take.
It looks like an old creepy museum or something.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a creepy vibe to it.
Well, she has a temple with a bunch of different things you're supposed to pray to.
And what was that? I mean, she's obviously not religious. So is it sacrilegious kind of? It seems more so. Like, was she in there with voodoo dolls rather than in there praying? Like, I just don't really see her in there doing like happy, positive, good prayers for the world or something. I
think it was just another one of those things to say, like, I've got 2 planes, 1 church, and 17 gays. It's expensive to be me. Like, I just feel like it was a little bit of that. So, okay, let me see. God, there's so much to ask. What else do you want to share? What else were we talking about on the phone the other day?
I think one of the things that I see people ask the most is like, or I see people saying like, she worked there, Kimberly, she worked there, oh my God. Because we end up talking about all this other stuff we don't really talk about that I did work with
That
Tom
you-
for
oh,
7
you
years.
worked. Yeah,
a lot
explain-
of people are like,
explain your- your
tweeting
his-
saying, "Hey, I have proof she worked there," or like they're like screenshotting my
Yeah.
author bio from Amazon. Like, yeah, when that book came out, I was a retained consultant at Girardi Keese. That's true. It's not a secret.
Yes.
I did work there. And, most of that is explained in The Hustler and The Housewife. But
Yeah.
some of the things it doesn't explain is that Tom and I did a lot of projects together. Like we filmed 2 documentaries that have never been finished because really after Tom got in that car wreck, he didn't seem to quite connect dots all the way. And so we never finished either one of those documentaries. And he had done tons of those types of projects over the years. He worked with Hillary Clinton's daughter, her sister-in-law, who was, big into that stuff. And he
What
talked
were the
about her,
documentaries on?
the different things he's done.
Different
us?
cases?
Oh, so the 2 that we were working on, one was on gas explosions and what happened to the Gomez's. Like, what's the irony of that? Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead and be like, what? And so like I went to Harlem. I filmed, there was a gas explosion there that burned down the largest Spanish church in Harlem. And 8 people died there. It was a very horrific experience for that neighborhood.
Was that a case that he
He had nothing to
gained-
do with that
Oh.
case or anything. This was just sort of like, it was something that I wanted to do. Like I wanted to do more storytelling about like actual victims because, the natural gas industry is a tough industry to take on.
Yeah.
They're very well ingrained into American capitalism. And so, you got to do some real work. Lawsuits have their place, but advocacy needs media and storytelling and laws to change. And you really got to do more. So it was really a project for the Gomez family because I didn't want Joe's injuries to be in vain. So we wanted to continue to tell their story so people wouldn't forget. I mean, like football is one thing, how my son was injured, you have to play football for it. But we all have natural gas pipelines running through our neighborhoods. So this is something that impacts every American. And so to me, it was a really worthwhile project.
Yeah.
And I still plan at some point when we catch our breath to finish what we started.
So you believe the accident happened. He didn't call the police for the same reasons that I already stated, and I
I
don't
agree.
know
He's
that I would
probably
either.
buzzed.
And especially when no one else is hurt,
And
no other car.
who wants
Yeah.
it to be on TMZ?
And you noticed a cognitive difference in him then. So do you think? But then that's no excuse for stealing from people for the last 20 years because he was sharp for 17 years. So what is your...
the issue with him and the car wreck? It's funny because everyone sort of misses this point too. I 100% believe that his mental capacity has changed over the last 4 years. No doubt about it. That has zero to do with the 40-year history of stealing from clients that we've seen over and over again in these articles that are very well researched by folks like Law 360 or LA Times. Okay, that is what it is. What I think is more shocking to me, and Erika said and I don't remember if it was last week or a week before, that she went to the people that truly loved Tom and told them, hey, he's changed, his whole personality changed. I'm not buying that his whole personality changed, but he did have short-term memory problems. He wasn't quite like on top of his game the way that he was. It was just like taking him down sort of a notch. And if you knew him well, you did kind of tilt your head and go, what's going on with this guy? Something's, not the same.
Right.
But what's interesting to me is in the legal lender loans, the son-in-law, David Lira, had agreed that he was the successor for Tom. So what that means is he signed and had it notarized that if anything were to happen to Tom and he were to be incompetent, that he would take over the firm. So if Erika told the daughter and the son-in-law that he's incompetent, how come they just let it all blow up for another couple of years until the money was just gone?
Why do you think? Do you think you don't think she told him, or do you think they were just so used to just living this life of like no questions asked, I'll take the money, and or knowing that they were that. Where does the son-in-law?
I'm
where
guessing,
does the son-in-law stand in all of this? Why are we only hearing about Tom and Erika if the son-in-law worked there?
It's really weird, and I'm not sure. It seems really bizarre because he's at the law firm which is Walter Lack, who's been Tom's buddy for years, and if you saw the company. G&L Aviation, the L stands for Lack, Walter Lack. That's who owned the planes together for a number of years till they got in a little tiff about some money and other stuff, and they parted ways, and he put the planes into a different LLC with somebody else who we're dealing with now. So it's interesting that one of Tom's longtime buddies that did the Aaron Brockovich PG&E deal in the first place, so they split all the fees back then for all those hundreds of millions. So the son-in-law is at Lack's law firm. He signed checks on the trust account. So he had access to the trust accounts. He at least could go to the bank and get copies of stuff. Erika couldn't do that. So it is interesting, like, why we're not hearing about the accountant, Chris Camone. He's the dude that did the numbers. Like, where's that guy at? And then the son-in-law, who somehow is still a lawyer. He's working for Tom's buddy because the law firm he originally went to, once he got held in contempt of court in Chicago, he left that firm and then went to Tom's buddy Lack. So kind of, just sort of freaky. Like, it doesn't make sense to me if you're able to sign for checks that you don't know what happened. And then we see that there have been deals made with the bankruptcy trustee for him to get attorney fees at Walter Lack's law firm for cases that were once at Girardi Keese, and for the trustee to get a percentage, but they're very low amounts. I think it was like 20%. So he's getting to keep. So his wife got to keep the lottery money. He's making deals to collect money, but he's being held in contempt of court in Chicago. And we know he's the only person that could sign on the checks besides Tom. The only other person who did that was Jim O'Callahan, and he passed away a couple of years ago. So it seems weird to me that we're not hearing about this at all, and people don't realize that there was actually a partner that had access and promised the lenders that they would take over if there was an issue. So if Erika's telling the truth that she warned the family and people who cared, how come they didn't put the succession plan in place for the 9,000 clients who were on the books that got screwed?
I agree. And my other question is, whatever happened with that robbery? The house was robbed. What was stolen? And where is that?
I never heard anything was stolen. I think somebody maybe was trying to creep around and it was just reported maybe, because I've never heard anything was missing. So I'm not sure it was a robbery. So again, I think some of the headlines kind of get ahead of the story a little bit. And, somebody was maybe just being a creeper on the property because all this buzz is going on. And someone wanted to see what's going on or whatever. I wonder if it was more of that, because I've never heard anything about anything missing, an insurance claim, or anything like that. But maybe it'll pop up later.
And when Erika freaked out that Garcelle revealed that she told her that, in fact, Tom calls her, and Garcelle said, I hope you don't mind me saying, Erika, but I heard that Tom still calls her. Well, I do. Mind. Thanks, you've got to have your moment. Garcelle's like, what? So she freaks out, she cries. Do you think, what is the significance of that Tom calls her? Why would she be so freaked out that got out? Some people believe that makes it seem that they are still talking, that there isn't this, oh my God, he didn't hug me the last time I saw him. I know he's cheating. I'm done. Like they are partners in this.
Yeah.
Could it be, and I'm going to give you a theory here, could it be that also the house that she goes to, the little, the cute little house in Hancock Park for $10,000 a month?
$9,500.
$9,500. Could that be something that was they had access to for a long time. It was set. It was planned. Could they have planned this together? Like, you're gonna leave this day. You're gonna take what you need. This is all gone. I'm gonna give you some money. You're gonna hide it. If you need it, then you have it. If I need it, I'm gonna call you and you're gonna help me. But now she's just not answering the phone.
Right. But remember, even in the clip in The Housewife and The Hustler, and I think it was from like a Nightline interview or some ABC interview, because that's how they had it. And she like leans on Tom in the kitchen and she's all like, this is my leader. And it sounded like, you know, they're aliens. Take me to your leader. Yeah. This is my leader. I go to him for everything.
Yeah.
Okay. Even though it sounded all weird and it was awkward, he was probably the smartest person that she had in her life before, during, or after. So how would she plan this escape from this disaster without Tom helping her escape? Come on, like, if he made the mess, the best person to help you escape is the person who made the disaster. They know the way out.
And I mean, the best defense for Tom is that he is of diminished capacity.
Well, and notice she said that.
You talk about that, because you brought that up to me, and I thought that was a really good point.
So what everyday person uses the legal term diminished capacity, mental capacity? Mm-hmm. Like someone would say like, oh, they're starting to like lose their memory, or they're getting dementia.
Yeah.
They're not remembering stuff. Like that's a specific legal term that if that were to be proven, then criminal issues that could come along later, it would make it tough for him to have to be able to stand any kind of criminal stuff.
Right.
And so I don't think that alibi is meant to exonerate him of the 40 years of things that he did wrong to clients. Mm-hmm. I think that it's meant to keep him from going to jail at 80-something years old. And so I certainly think that she's working in tandem with him. Nothing else makes any sense whatsoever. And of course, when she told Garcelle about that, there were cameras and 20 crew people around. So it wasn't set in secret to begin with. And don't you think one of the producers probably prompted Garcelle to ask the question again? I'd put money on that the producers asked her to say that. And then Garcelle's like, what? So she's supposed to go online and be like, well, the producers asked me.
Yes, I think I'm going to explain that right now. Okay, so what I've pieced together in interviewing Crystal and actually seeing some other interviews and whatnot, because people were like, didn't she know that was being told? Well, I guess the cameras weren't on their faces when that conversation was being said. So whether their mics were on or off, I don't know. And then later on, she told Crystal, don't bring that up. And Garcelle was not there for that part. However, what I've also heard is prior to Garcelle bringing it up, it was already brought up prior to Garcelle on camera, which they didn't use. And that's why she was she was pissed.
Because it kept being brought up.
Because she was like, you got it again, you got it. And then she goes to the bathroom and she's having a breakdown. She's crying, which I, sympathize with the breakdown of like, what the fuck is going on? Because people that are on these shows say it's like a chess game. It's like you're dreaming. You don't know what's real, what's not. And then you're in the biggest like financial scandal of all time. And I think then she was like, I've been honest, like meaning like, I think she wants to please the producers of Housewives.
Right. She wants to keep her job.
She's got to keep her job.
Money.
That's it. There's nothing left. Maybe there's some hidden, maybe there's a ring somewhere, but I don't think there's like 50 million.
I think that's the biggest thing no one planned for. Erika didn't plan for it. None of us saw coming that he would just run out of money.
Yes. Okay.
That just seems like unbelievable to anybody who was around. I mean, even suspecting that he was stealing from the Gomez's or maybe from somebody else, no idea until I was long gone the depth of it or that he was broke. I mean, I can imagine even for her that was shocking. And I could see like her little cry fits. I mean, that alone is devastating for her to think like, I mean, you signed up for this type of marriage and you had certain expectations. Whether people feel it's lovely or romantic or whatever, it doesn't matter. You still have an attachment, you still have a history, and you still had expectations. And guess what? It all blew up. And sadly, she thought she had no prenup, which meant she was going to get money at the end of the day. And instead, she owes his debt.
Yeah.
I don't think people realize that in California, we don't have to prove she committed fraud. She is on the hook. It's a community property state. So just like she could get some of his money that he earned, she also owes his debt. So anyone who's married right now, if you're married and your spouse leaves you and you file for divorce and they file bankruptcy, you're stuck with the debt. Now, you can get it charged off because you didn't commit fraud. And hopefully we're going to have those same filings occur in the Girardi stuff soon, now that maybe after they hear it on Juicy Scoop, maybe they'll get on it, that we need to make sure these claims don't get charged off.
Right.
I mean, that seems like an important thing to get on.
Do you have any idea of how much they made on the auction?
I have no idea. I mean, I saw the creepy stuff and everything.
I saw a blip of somebody's post, which was not of like LA Times or anything. 8 million. I don't believe there was 8 million worth of shit in there.
How?
I think maybe 8 million would maybe no. There's no way
There's no way.
There's no way there was 8 million from that.
Wasn't it like creepy paintings of Tom and like his award? Yeah, the coat rack. I saw trying to think of the things I saw.
I would pay for the coat rack.
Bookshelves of medical books from 1970 that probably were used on some case from 3 decades ago or whatever.
Well, when we walked in, I could sneak around the corner and see some of the other things that were about to be picked up. And those ugly suit jackets of his on his little short fat body, those were ready to be picked up.
I just can't even imagine. I loved that someone bought the lingerie. I don't know what they paid for that lingerie, but that's pretty funny. Yeah. And I cracked up that everybody was like, why are they selling Erika's lingerie? It's a size 3. That ain't Erika's.
Is 3 big? 3 is less than 4. Who has a size 3? No one makes a size 3.
That was the size of it. Maybe it's European and it's 0, 1, 2, 3 or whatever. But that's not Erika's size is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
And it was bought right before Valentine's Day if you saw the receipt. So it's like an extra for one of the, just in case. I mean, maybe one of the olds was going to come back around and you just got to be prepared for all the different extra side pieces. You got to have trinkets and gifts and,
Well, I think I told you, and I may have mentioned on the show or not, I'm not sure, but I had a Juicy Scooper reach out, and her significant other worked at the Mortons. Oh. And so he would oftentimes eat in the private room with different women all the time. And they were all professional-looking office-type women. They weren't working the strip club. They weren't the waitresses. They were and I always wondered if that always kind of pissed off Erika a little bit. Don't
you think she was just I'm glad I don't have to sleep with that old guy and I can just go hang out and do whatever I want?
I do, but I always wonder
until you're really rejected, wouldn't you just think that for the most part you're yay, I'm my obligations are off the hook. I could go spend on my Amex.
Yes, but I always wonder if there was just a little bit of something hurtful in that she does not have a formal education, and the guys and the girls that he was cheating with had a brain. No matter how much plastic surgery you can get, you can have a smaller bridge of a nose, you can give yourself a jawline, you can give yourself tits and ass.
And a perfect flat stomach.
Yeah, lift your eyebrows, get your fake hair. But you can't get a brain transplant.
Yeah, you can't be a judge.
You can't all of a sudden be a judge.
Look at the judge. I think that's probably why she blasted that particular example, because she felt like that impropriety would be embarrassing to the judge, which I'm sure that it was devastating to have that blasted all over the internet, especially since it's been some time and now she's married.
Also, just how gross that's not only were you having an affair with this person, but that person was married and it was Tom Girardi.
Yeah, and now he's a big old creeper that stole from everybody and you're a judge.
And you were acting like a sugar baby trying to get your free plastic surgery in a handbag.
Remember
You're a judge.
Well,
Like,
and you're
a
asking
judge.
for permission, like, hey, can I get
Hey,
this
Daddy,
at
yeah.
Saks Fifth Avenue? And oh, here's a picture of me posed on the bed.
With my butt, or I'm gonna get my plastic
Wasn't she
surgery.
dressed and everything too, though?
She was like it was like her jeans and her butt. I mean,
It was
just
really
like that.
thirsty.
It
I
was
don't know.
super
It was
embarrassing.
really wild.
And that part, I don't have a problem with Erika doing, because I'm like, you're gross. You were a judge. This was your attorney. So already I feel like that wasn't an appropriate relationship, because you were the judge and he was the attorney. And she goes, you better look sharp tomorrow in court. Oh, and he goes like, I want the jury to like me. So was she a presiding judge on certain things?
Not for him.
Oh, well, gross.
Right,
still.
not for him, but she was a sitting judge at the time. So obviously her perspective was, was valuable. And he knew her for a long time. I never met her. Yeah. But I heard after the whole, doxing thing on the internet that she was a long time, friend of the firm.
Now, with his flirtiness, because he seems like a big flirt, I met him too, and he stood right up, and I felt the flirt. I felt a little bit of the flirt when I saw him at Craig's, even though Erika was right there. I said to people before the scandal, I was like, oh, I get the charm and everything, with the sparkling blue eyes. And he's like, yes, and everything. So were there any other occasions of people that, like, it was a little, I don't know if you can tell the story or not, because we have some private conversations.
Okay.
But there was a story that you told me about a young girl that was somewhat of a client, and after she prevailed in her case with him, and it wasn't a huge case, he was like, oh, I'd like to pay for your law school. And she was pretty attractive.
And there was a young girl that was a client, and she kind of sort of favored, blonde hair, blue-eyed, young thing. And he tried to take some attention to her, and we made sure to keep him away from her. And he didn't really have any interaction. And this was definitely when I was sort of in the double agent position where...
Explain the double agent position.
Well, where Kathy, Gomez had really figured out a lot of the stuff in her case, and we were sort of stuck in limbo in the fact that, you got to have the proof. You can't just think that something happened. You can't go file a lawsuit or go convince an attorney to file a case against Tom unless you literally have the proof. So there was a window there.
That he had taken the money.
Yeah, there was a window there where we're, trying to line up everything so that we could get a law firm to sue Tom to ensure that, so they could get the judgment and make sure that if there was a bankruptcy, that they would for sure get their money. And so we're sort of in that, space at that time where, I am not sure if Tom is a good shark or a bad shark. So I'm not going to let the questionable shark around someone young and impressionable. And so, we made sure, we didn't want someone to be the target, to be the next Erika Jayne.
But didn't he talk about offering to pay for her to go to
he's,
school or something, pay for people's education? And
he would make offers to if you want to go to law school, I'll pay for you to go. And now looking back, it does seem that he would do that for women, but not necessarily, for the guys. Like there was one attorney who was a second generation, working at Girardi Keese, and he took out loans. Well, if their dad worked at Girardi Keese, wouldn't you? Yeah. Offer to, hey, and he went to the same school that, Tom had the whole wing named after his dad or whatever.
Is that the Loyola Law School?
Yeah. Well, so why did he take out loans to go there when your dad works for Tom? What? I guess because he was a guy, he wasn't cute. I don't know. To me, that's weird. I don't think that's cool.
I have a friend who was applying to law school. They're family friends. And it was between USC and Loyola. And USC was her first choice. And no, it wasn't even, she hadn't even applied to Loyola. She was USC was her first choice. And he said, well, if you can't get into USC, I'll get you into Loyola. Just like that.
And he could.
And she got into SC, so she didn't. But that's the kind of power that hey, you need to go there, you need this, you need that. I mean, it's just endless. And why people, reacted the way they did to him for so many years because he really did have that much power. And then there were all the fun perks that came with being his friend too.
Well, yeah, I mean, it wasn't unusual to be given tickets to a Broadway play or to Super Bowl. I mean, I worked on the NFL case. I went to lots of NFL or football related events because I needed to, but also it was no big deal to, or it wasn't unusual to be like, oh, here's tickets to Super Bowl, or, oh, you want to go to the NBA finals, or you want to go see a Dodger playoff game or whatever. Like that was just a part of it. You didn't really think of it as being a big deal. Everyone did it. I mean, there were attorneys that just worked with Tom one time and he would send them on a trip to Vegas or whatever and do all these really cool things for them. Like he just liked being that guy.
Yeah.
That was part of his persona.
What is coming up? Like, what should we look for?
Oh, man. This is the thing I would tell people,
until you're on again, what's on the horizon besides everything that we've talked about?
I just think, all I see in the horizon are more daily headlines that may or may not formulate into anything. I don't see a big happy ending to this. I think people are sort of just fooling themselves if they think that, hundreds of millions are going to be collected and everyone's going to get paid and we're going to sell off into the sunset and me and Kathy are going to, just be old friends drinking margaritas on the front porch. I mean, I just feel like that's not gonna be how it's gonna go down. I think we'll just continue to see more filings in the bankruptcy case. I think we'll eventually see what's happening in Chicago. That hearing that was supposed to be coming up in a couple weeks has been pushed out because of another case and all the backlog of COVID and all of that. And so, I think we'll learn more. Because it seems like the Chicago judge is a little more interested in the son-in-law and other, dealings with Girardi Keese and the trust accounts. So I think we'll learn more in the Chicago stuff that could be helpful in understanding who helped Tom. I mean, the obvious seemed to be the people who could sign on the accounts. So the accountant and the son-in-law were the only ones.
Doesn't he have another son who was an attorney?
He does have a son who's an attorney that didn't work at the firm, and he probably did maybe early on or as a law clerk or at some time maybe, never when I was around or that I remember. I heard
he just had his own little small practice, and it was like, oh, what? Now that guy's probably like, thank God. Thank God I just branched out and did my own little thing. Maybe he did that because he knew what was going on.
Well, and his brother, Jack Girardi, was a partner at the firm. But again,
what happened to him?
So partner is such kind of a
funky thing. Is that the brother
thing.
That's now in charge of his conservatorship?
No, that's the dentist. So,
okay, what happened to Jack?
So Jack's kind of floating around. I'm not sure where he's at. Probably at Walter Lack's. But who knows? And again, he was not an equity partner. It was just like partner in name only. And so, I was not aware of him being a signer on the account or anything like that. So, I mean, he's just someone that worked there.
And I don't know about this part of bankruptcy, so I wouldn't know anyway. But let's say in the end she gets found to still owe $4 million. I'm just putting on a thing. Like, we've calculated this or whatever.
Right.
Is that the type of thing that next year when she does Housewives and they give her $750,000, that's garnished or half of it? Or?
They could garnish. Yeah, if they make sure that the debts can't be charged off and there's an amount that's assigned to her and there's a judgment and they go to collect the judgment, she very well, could have to pay out of future earnings.
And where are you? Where are you? And are you in the line of things?
So for me, I'm an unsecured creditor, even though I was one of the 6 people that filed the bankruptcy to trigger this for Tom.
So he owes you salary, or what does he owe you?
No, he doesn't owe me salary. This is, again, another thing like the fun trolls like to say. And they're all like, you haven't proved your claim or whatever. It'll all have to be proven to the courts. Like, calm down. Don't worry. We're not going to prove it on Twitter. But it's not money to me. This was a contract that was signed by Girardi Keese to pay for legal bills for a lawsuit.
For your case.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So I was involved in a lawsuit for a year and a half. And of course, Tom wanted to handle everything because he was handling my son's case. So when I went to him, he was like, oh, I got you. I'll take care of it. The person that was hired was his friend. I didn't know him from anybody. And he agreed to pay for it. So he didn't pay the law firm. Mm-hmm. And it ran up a bill, $300,000. So he owes that money to a law firm.
Got it.
And I'm attached to it because, in essence, if he doesn't pay it, then I'm going to be on the hook for paying it.
And so, and then is Kathy and her son above you?
Yes, absolutely. So they're the first secured creditors of the victims. So once the legal lenders are paid that have UCC filings, then the Gomez's could start to collect on the 11.7 plus accruing interest for them. So they are in the front of the line, and they're the most important.
And then who's after that? The plain victims, the widows and orphan people?
I would think so, but that's going to be up to the trustees to decide, how things are paid. Now, Mr. Rund, on the personal side, 80% of what he collects has been agreed to go to the Gomez, the other 20 to the rest of the estate. So let's say the house sells and has any profits from it, 80% of that would go to the Gomez's.
Right. Okay.
So that would be good news if the house were to sell or not to keep dropping. So there are not any other victims that are secured creditors. So, that's one of the issues. And that's what I was saying. Like, the legal lenders are sophisticated. So they have UCC filings. The actual victims who had cases that had money taken from them, they have unsecured claims.
Yeah.
So this is why we need to see more of discussion about making sure the victims are paid first. Like, maybe some lawmakers need to get involved here, because why are the legal lenders, who are lawyers, friends of Tom's, getting paid before the victims?
Yeah.
That seems outrageous. Like, UCC filing or not, this doesn't seem right. So maybe that's where some lawmakers need to be doing something about this, because, and if fans, want to help victims, then that's what they should do, is contact their lawmaker and say, how come the legal lenders are getting paid before people like Joe Gomez or the orphans and widows of that plane crash? That's tragic.
Right.
Not right at all.
Kimberly, you're the best. Looking cute as ever. Thank you. I love the frankness. Thank you for explaining some of this stuff.
It's humid in LA today.
Yes. Tell everybody where they can follow you if they have questions or want to help with what you just said.
So I'm on Twitter at Kimberly Archie, or on Instagram at SureSafety.
And here was a tweet.
Oh.
That was part of Talk of Shame's stories. Kimberly Archie from the Housewife and the Hustler documentary clapping back because Erika Jayne tweeted, "This is beyond boring," and you wrote, "I knew her new cleaning hobby wouldn't last long because we see her cleaning in my little dollhouse, my $10,000 a month dollhouse." And then the TikTok that's gone viral is her singing. It's like,
it's a hard knock life.
There's hard knock life, and then there's another one that's like a single mom with 2 jobs, whatever that song is.
My favorite part is someone's screenshot when she was like scrouched down, in front of scrouched. Is that a word?
Yeah.
In front of her. Yeah. I just make up words.
Crouch, just crouch.
Crouching. Yeah, anyway.
Yeah.
So she's wiping down the fridge. Remember, she gets all the way down and she's got the plumber's crack. And someone free shot that. I was like, did she mean to show her plumber's crack on Housewives? Is that cool?
I don't think she meant to.
I don't think she meant to in that little pink. But anyway, I wasn't buying with the $1,000 little mini Dyson vac, that she was like, it doesn't look like you've done that before, honey.
Yeah.
Or at least not since your waitress days.
Yeah. Or when she said, I stole these glasses that I stole leaving. I'm like, God, the things that these editors decide to keep in, I'm like, they are not your friends.
And Lisa's like, we got cake and champagne. I mean, it just kind of sounded like, let them eat cake, the victims. Here we are, drinking out of these very expensive stolen glasses, our lovely champagne and cake. When, maybe they could have sold those at the auction the other day and made another $500 for victims. But maybe glad that they could toast and eat cake. I mean, that's cool.
And I don't think when they said that, like, that even, it was to celebrate Kyle's birthday. So I don't think, like, 5 months ago that was on Lisa Rinna's mind because we didn't even know this.
But that's how it was edited.
Now that it's edited, it's like, wow, savage. Thank you so much, Kimberly. We'll see you again soon.
Thanks for having me.
Great.
You're all right.
So that was some juicy scoop, but you know where the juiciest scoop is? On my Patreon. I've been on Patreon for over 3 years, and it's where I share the juiciest scoop, my intimate thoughts, and it's a really great community of people, and you can be part of it. You go to heathermcdonald.net and you join. You will love it.